me.
Really? Okay.
So I just pressed live.
Yep.
And if you want to share it out, you can. I just share it onto my business page. So it just takes me a minute, and anyone else that is watching that wants to share it out, that would be awesome as well. But there's no pressure, because I want to make sure whenever I have a special guest on that they feel as comfortable as they possibly can, because I think that's the ultimate goal, so that people can hear your most honest stories. So sometimes we have family and friends that we don't want to share all this with. So I totally get that too.
Oh yeah,
So,
I don't care. I'm open.
I know you are. That's why you have a face and I don't. So while I'm doing this as well, I'm just going to introduce myself. And so my name is Robin Jardine, soon to be Robin Horseman. Yay!
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. So that's interesting, because you're also getting married too.
Yeah.
So what is your date?
June 7th.
Oh, awesome. And I'm June 25th.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, that is powerful.
Yeah, I love that.
So my business name is called Robin's Healing, and I've been around for, I don't know, I'm going to say the last 7 years, full time, I guess, with little breaks in between. And so I started this podcast, year number 5, which is awesome. I feel like number 5 represents change. And with this like eclipse season just coming in, I feel like we're all experiencing that right now. Yeah. We're both getting married, which is like the biggest change, I feel like, of your entire life. Mm-hmm. So in a good way, but it always creates, sometimes stress and
yes.
even just changing your name, like that's a completely different identity. So so I'm so happy to have you here. And the goal of just having this podcast is just to get knowledge and information out to people around overall health and wellness. So I brought you on today because I have felt connected to your energy since basically I met you. Even before I even really knew you, I was like, oh, she's cute and she's young, and I feel like I have a lot in common with her. So I was just drawn into your energy in our Akashic Records program. Yep. And then you did a little bit of a mediumship session on me, and my cousin came through in that, and he was someone that I didn't really know. But it's interesting because recently that side of the family I've been kind of reaching out to people, like an aunt that I've never called in my entire life. So it's bringing up a lot of stuff. So that's kind of what I wanted to discuss today, is like your story in terms of how you help people, for sure, but like also how people can start lining up with more meaning, I guess, like how I was even saying I felt connected to you, and then you did a little session on me, like just like randomly, and then now it's still bringing up new things. So I'd like to even talk about how like the long term of like how we can continue to connect, even if after we've only had one session. And we might think it's like, oh, just this little thing we're doing for fun, but it can actually have this amazing, powerful, positive impact over a lot of years. I don't know, that's what's just coming up for me. So that's my goal coming on here, is just to share other people's stories and knowledge. And of course, I want to promote you as well. So we want to hear more about like what you do and how you do it. And then you can share whatever information or resources you have in the comments. And then I'm going to throw this on YouTube too. So if other people want to watch it over there, then that'd be awesome. And I know you have a YouTube channel too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then you can also kind of promote that.
Great.
That's it.
That's good. Do you want me to just start with kind of my story? I want to remember what you just said so I don't forget it. The other
well, I just kind of want to have that open dialogue of whatever's coming through, because we're both intuitives, and I think that that's really, really cool to connect to. Less script, more connection towards our audience. So if people have comments, I'm going to keep an eye on that too, so they can participate, because as I already shared with you, I'm going to do some theta healing when some things come up. So the more people share and get involved in the conversation, I might interrupt you to like let you know what the comments say, but
oh sure, no, I'm happy to. Okay,
cool. So you go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. For anybody that does not know me, my name is Daisy Farrell, and I'm a psychic medium and healer. And thank you so much for having me, Robin. Robin's awesome. And so basically, let me try to kind of backtrack here a little bit. My story is long, so I'm going to try to compact it as best I can and really just kind of touch on the main points that I think are important to touch on. So for me, I think when it comes to mediumship, there tends to be kind of two categories, but there's a lot of variations within those categories. Okay. But there tends to be, you're a medium the minute you're like born. You're like a child and you're seeing spirits and you're aware of it. And it's just a thing from the time you're born. Right. Or they have a thing called latent mediumship. So that's where you open up to your abilities later in your life. And the thing for me is like, that's kind of more my category. However, once that happened and looking back, I can see that the ability was there the whole time, right? It was just not, I just wasn't aware of it, right? I didn't know that that's what it was. So I do believe that I was born this way for sure. There's psychics on both sides of my family. So it's something that was always there and I mean was open in my family, but again, I never considered myself one, right? I just didn't think that that was something I was going to do that would be me in any way. Growing up, I mean, I basically, one of the main things that I had that I still do, was really, really vivid, intense dreams that were just crazy, and I would always remember them in great detail. And as a child, I had a few premonition dreams that came true. But again, that was kind of the only like psychic experience I had, I think, when I was younger-ish. But I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it meant anything. I was kind of just like, well, that's weird, and I don't know. But I never gave it that much thought. And I mean, growing up, I was a really weird kid. I was very creative, very just different. And I definitely struggled a lot growing up. Oh no, I was very sensitive too. I was really sensitive, definitely empathic. I just didn't know, again, like I didn't know that's what that was. I just thought I was weird, and I don't know, like, I guess I'm just weird. I don't know. But there was definitely like, I was definitely connecting to higher energy that I just was not aware of. And going through high school and everything, I started to struggle with eating disorder, drug addiction, alcoholism, you name it, mental health problems, all kinds of stuff, really bad anxiety, depression, all of that. I was even, hospitalized for depression when I was 13 and put on meds and stuff. So for a really long time, I kind of just believed, well, I guess I'm fucked up, or I have problems, right? And I didn't, and I kind of just would like listen to what doctors were telling me, things like that, and I was really young, so I was impressionable and I just was kind of like accepted that, right? And it hasn't really been until way later, but I'll get to that. But basically that I kind of came to a lot of these realizations. But going through all of that, I hit a huge bottom. I basically I should be dead. I mean, that's really the reality of it. And I was really grateful and lucky. I found AA when I believe I went to my first meeting when I was 20 years old. And I did not get it right away, but in and out for a while. And I finally stayed and got sober and changed my life around. And, up until that point, I didn't know there was anything there. I didn't think of anything like that. I was just trying to function. I was just trying to heal, right? And I went through a lot of self-healing, a lot of self-work, and a lot of just time on that. And for a long time too, I was basically atheist. I really, I was very connected to nature and all of that, but I never really, I don't know, I didn't really go there. Like I was really interested in the paranormal, all that kind of stuff. I was always fascinated by it and very into it. But I was basically an atheist. I didn't really have a higher power in my life or anything like that. But AA changed that for me. It forced me to look at that and connect with something. And basically what happened was it wasn't until I had 2 years sober that all of this started to happen for me. And basically what happened was, you know, I was going through one of the hardest years of my life, and a lot of chaos was going on around me. And I lost 3 people in like 6 months, I think. So just a lot. And what had started to happen, and actually before that happened, I had had another premonition dream, and it came true, about someone passing. And I started to have these visitation dreams, and they were different from what I had experienced before, because basically they were for other people. And so like, for example, a friend of my fiance had passed away, and I had this dream that I was my fiance, and I was messaging with him on Facebook Messenger with his friend that had passed. And it was basically this back and forth. It was very brief, but you know, and at the time I was like, well, that was weird. I don't know, you know, but now I realize like he was trying to make it like very obvious, like, this isn't for you, you know, this is for Brian. Like, this is the message for your fiance. And it's a message just in Facebook Messenger. He's trying to be very like clear with, I think, symbology there. Right. But again, I was just kind of like, you know, I don't know, just weird. But then it happened again. And it was again, where it was this thing where it was, this is for someone else. This is the message here, and you're just going to listen. And then I pass the message on, and the person's like, oh my God, you know, that makes perfect sense. So I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh, this is weird. You know, I don't know what I'm doing. And at the same time, I started to just have really bad anxiety. I had anxiety already, you know, but it started to get worse. And I also started not feel well. And one of the other things that was happening was I was having like paranormal kind of activity in my home. So electronics were doing weird things. I was just having a lot of like synchronicities taking place, a lot of just stuff going on. And at the same time, I was also getting very connected to crystals for the first time. And I was playing around with oracle cards for the first time. Like, I had played with them a little bit, but I was getting into them again. And I kept pulling this card over and over again that said mediumship. And I was like, what? You know, I just didn't buy it. I didn't believe it. And the anxiety just got worse. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening to me. And I started to have a really hard time being at work. I had a very demanding kind of full-time job, and I would just dread going into work every day. I was getting very overwhelmed wherever I went, especially when I went into places that had a lot of people in them. And I finally I went to a medium to see if he could pick up on anything. And he basically told me, he's like, yeah, you're a medium, you know, and that's what's happening. That's what it is. And again, I was still like, you know, I didn't really, I still like, I was a big skeptic. I was still kind of like, okay, but now what, you know? And that almost made it worse for a time, because then I was like, you know, I just feel crazy. Like, I don't know what's going on. And finally I reached out to another medium, and I took a beginner's mediumship course to be just like, let's see what's going on. And because the other thing was like, I hadn't done any, like, I hadn't connected, you know, while I was awake up until that point, right? I just didn't, I mean, I just didn't know that, right? But like, I hadn't done that consciously and was like aware of it yet. So I was like, I don't even know if I can like do that, you know? I mean, this is happening in my dreams, but I don't know if that means anything, right? So I took a beginner's mediumship class, and she walked us through connecting for the first time. And she was just like, who do you have? And I just described this person I was seeing. And then someone in my class was like, oh, I know who that is. That's my friend. And I was just like shocked. I remember I was just so shocked. And I just couldn't believe that that's what was happening. But then after that happened, you know, I was given assignments to practice and just start working on it. It just kind of clicked for me. I was like, oh, like once I did it the first time, once she had walked me through it, it kind of flipped this switch in me. And I was just like, oh, that makes sense. It just made sense to me. And then I was kind of just able to do it. And not to say that it took years and years from that point on still to just develop it further and do all of that. But it was just like, you know, whoa. So it was a lot to take in at the time, and I still was kind of just shocked by the whole thing. But from that point on, it just expanded out from there. And it was years and years of just continuing to develop it, practice, work with other teachers to finally be at the point that I am now. And, you know, one of the things that I'm grateful for too is that after learning all of this and going through it, it's just added a whole other understanding of my whole life and like who I was as a person and why I had certain struggles that I did, that I had thought that I had healed and understood in AA. And, you know, that definitely helped, but it just kind of completed this puzzle, I think, that was still a little bit like, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, it made a lot more sense.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know, like, what do you think would have happened if you didn't go to that medium for, I guess, like answers or like confirmation?
Man, I don't know. I feel like I would have just been like kind of stuck in the anxiety. And I mean, I feel like eventually I would have just gone to somebody because I was just like, help, like I just didn't know what to do with how I was feeling. And for a long time, like I felt very isolated. I felt very confused. I felt like I was losing my mind, honestly. But yeah, so I mean, I don't think anything good would have happened. I mean, I think I was meant to go to that, to him for sure.
Yeah, because I'm thinking because you're a medium, you had that like natural ability to energetically go places and do things like through intuition, I guess. So you would have understood, okay, I need to go talk to somebody. I need to go talk specifically to a medium. So even though you didn't know you were one, you were drawn to one. But what I find is like some people are really skeptical of going to mediums. So they could even be a medium and be struggling and then not even want to go. So like, how would you encourage somebody to like take that first step to like not be scared to work, to like even work with a medium, to develop like what their gifts are, even if it's not that they're a medium, but like that they have this beautiful intuitive side that might come out through like art or something?
Yeah. So no, I mean, I think that's a great point. I think unfortunately, there's so much out there in media, TV, everything that just gives mediumship a bad rap, just a bad reputation, and makes people skeptical or makes them feel weird about it. And I totally get that. And I encourage people to be skeptical. I think that's fine because unfortunately, just like any other kind of person in the world, like there are psychics and mediums out there that aren't legit and are like not good people, unfortunately. But what I would say is if you're feeling skeptical, it's doing your research first and foremost, making sure that you're going to a person that's credible, that has a good background, that has things that maybe you can also relate to in their story, right? Because there's amazing mediums out there that are real, like down to earth people and are really there to help, right? And are really the real deal. It's just a matter of making sure that you're finding the right people, So I think that's one of the main things I would say, because unfortunately, like that's the thing. I think sometimes people, they feel like they need to go and they kind of just don't do their research and they just go to somebody that maybe was recommended by like just a friend, or like they just go to one of those random shops, right, that has someone, and then they have like this traumatic experience or like this horrible experience, and then they're like, I hate mediums, you know what I mean? Or they're just like, I'm never going again.
Yeah. What I would say is like, just trust, because I'm not a research person myself, but I'm also like you, I'm like an energy person. So if I feel a good feeling from someone, then it's a good place to start. And even if it wasn't like maybe the best experience I've ever had, at least it was like a stepping stone for me getting like one tiny piece of information. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that was like something that over the next few months I'm gonna like work on or pay attention to. And then I find it creates this positive trickle effect if it's just like one tiny thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And I think also to keep in mind is that just like with any person that you're trying to like work with, or anyone that you, I don't know, like even like therapy, or like for one example, but it's also like to keep in mind that, you know, if you don't have the best experience with one person, like you're not, like there's so many other people to connect with that you can reach out to. And I think that was also really instrumental in my development, was that I went through a lot of different mentors and teachers, and some of them I'm not connected to anymore, right? And maybe also some of them I didn't have the best experiences with, but I learned something from each experience, and it was all part of that path, and it was all necessary for me.
Mm-hmm. That would definitely be my recommendation too. Don't let your bad experiences like create your future, because good for you for trying, but like you said, even if it's a therapist, like on to the next one. And I'm the type where I do become loyal to certain people because I like to support their business and I like what they're doing for me. So I might stay loyal to like one person, but then but expand that. So if I have like my 10 people that I get readings from and healings or mediums, then like I'd rather have 10 than like one, you know, because I might be limiting myself, I find. So I feel like the more people you can explore things with on all levels, science and arts, like you're just going to get more and more knowledge.
Well, yeah, totally. And I think that's the other thing with intuitive abilities in general, not just mediumship, but just that, you know, everybody's unique and everybody has a different way of doing things. And that's something like, especially in the way that I like to teach people, is I really like to encourage the uniqueness of each person. Because I think, unfortunately, also in a lot of different classes and things like this, there's sometimes too much structure, or there's too much like it can only be done one way, right? And I think that can limit people sometimes too, and make them feel kind of stuck. And I think we need that variety. That's why it's there. You know, there's so many different types of people in the world. There's also so many different types of dead people in the world, right? And we need those different unique traits of each person to bring through different things in a different way. So that's another thing, is to not, if somebody is like telling you that you're not doing something maybe the right way, you know, don't like force it, right? If it doesn't feel right to you. That would be another thing I would say.
Yeah, I think that's what makes a really good teacher, is someone who can understand each person on an individual level, and then find in group settings, find some type of healthy balance, so that like it's not going to be perfect, but the people that are meant to continue on perhaps like with you will feel energetically drawn to the words that you're saying, and then the people that are kind of just meant to be there for that one time will possibly move on to the next person. That's kind of what I feel like. The words that you're choosing are the ones that those specific people need to hear. So that's kind of brings us into the audience too. I want to ask them if they've ever, whether you're watching this on the replay, have they ever been to a medium? And if so, what was their experience? Did they have a positive experience? Did they have a negative experience? Like anything to do with that. And also, have they ever been to a psychic? Because psychics and mediums are different. And for people watching, they probably don't know, because I'm both of these things and I still am really struggling with that. So can you explain that to us?
Sure. Yeah, so I think that's one that we often get confused. And that's because here's the thing. So like, not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums are psychic. That's the simplest way to put it, but I'll explain further. But essentially, a psychic is tapping into your energy specifically, or it could be the energy of other things, of animals, whatever, right? But the idea is that they're kind of staying here, right? And they're connecting to your energy, your aura, your life. And I think sometimes that's the thing. Sometimes psychics will think they're mediums, or they get that a little confused, because they can pick up that you've lost your mom, or, you know, and that you had a great relationship and this is the things that happened. And it can feel kind of like a mediumship reading, right? But it actually isn't. It's that they're getting that from you. So then the difference is that a medium is somebody that is able to connect to people on the other side and directly link with them specifically, and then bring through information from them. So that's going to be a very different thing. And usually, you know, I mean, a way to also tell is like, they'll be able to get a lot more information around that person that is passed compared to a psychic just picking up on some life experience from you. Gotcha. If that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. So Nancy commented that I've never been to a medium, but would love to, only card readers. So there you go. Nancy is actually in a group with me, with a psychic medium, but it's a really large group, and he teaches us simple tools like meditation and kind of helps us inch our way to being more of a spirit talker. Mm-hmm. But I find a lot of people in that group, just in my opinion, sometimes from the people that I've worked with, is they get a little frustrated, like, I'm not there yet, you know, like I don't think I'm a medium, or I want to be and I'm not, and like, how come this person's having this experience and like I'm not? A lot of like expectations and pressure, and like, how do you relate to that with expectations of mediumship and pressure?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of that, unfortunately. I mean, because we're human, right? We're human. And I think there's a lot of comparison. It's easy to compare. It's easy to do that and fall into that. And I think a big part of it is like, you know, needing to sometimes take a step back and just sometimes, like, comparing is not going to help you. I mean, ultimately, like, the only thing that's going to help you is like, I want to strive to be like that, or, you know, I admire that trait in what someone's doing in their mediumship, right? And again, easier said than done. I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do. And especially when you're in development, it's patience. Like, patience is in time is the biggest thing with mediumship development. You know, everybody's going to develop at a different pace. Because I think that's the other thing that people don't realize is that, you know, everybody is really different in how they connect and how they work. And a lot of the times, yeah, I mean, I think that's the main thing, is that usually, I mean, the first thing that you really need to focus on when you're developing mediumship is healing yourself. Healing yourself, because all that stuff is the filter that spirit is trying to work through. And if we don't have our stuff healed or addressed, and I'm not saying that we can ever be complete in healing, but at least getting to a point where we're aware of what's going on, aware of our layers of maybe trauma or different things, the better we're going to be able to develop the mediumship itself. But I think that's one of the things that people struggle with the most when they start development, because they don't realize that they should be focusing on the internal work first. And then they're just trying to focus on developing the mediumship, and they're rushing, right? So then they don't realize like that they're getting blocked because they have some kind of past childhood issue or something. And that's filtering what they're trying to bring through.
Okay, I'm going to go answer my door because this is live.
Okay.
And what I would like you to do, if you're open to it, is my favorite thing that you do is your meditations. Mm-hmm. Like, they're the most powerful meditations I've ever done.
Oh, thank you.
And I've have done one with you and it was like life-changing. So no pressure, but would you be open to doing like just something for relaxation to get people maybe possibly opening up their third eye to like knowing what it looks like and feels like to tap into that emotion of connection?
Yeah, totally. I can totally do that. All right, everybody. So just get super comfortable and try to make sure that you don't have any distractions around you to the best of your ability. And I also always recommend having an option to be able to take notes after this, just to write down what came up for you. It's good to have a record of it. And then whenever you're ready, you can close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Another deep breath in, pausing at the top, inhaling, holding it, and exhaling slowly. Doing that one more time, inhaling, holding it, and exhaling. And taking one more deep breath. And take a moment here to just tune into your physical body. So kind of gently scanning from your feet all the way up to the top of your head, taking your time doing this. And just paying attention to anything that's standing out to you. Also, I want you to just notice any areas where you're holding tension. And as you notice those areas, work consciously to release that tension to the best of your ability. Allowing that to melt away. Really relaxing your face, your shoulders, very common areas to hold tension. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, imagine releasing that tension even deeper. Really allowing yourself to surrender. Releasing even deeper here. And understanding that you have full permission to be completely present in this moment right now. There's nothing else that needs to be done or thought about other than sitting with this energy. And it's from here I want you to tune into your aura. Our aura is always changing. So just tuning into how it looks today at this moment, what colors you're seeing or picking up on. And just tuning into the vibration of that as well, what it feels like, the energy of it. And if it's giving you any information. Just tuning into that. And it's from here that I want you to bring your attention to your third eye. So right in the center of your forehead. And the color that's represented here is a deep indigo blue. So really envisioning the energy of that space as a bright indigo blue light projecting out of that area. And everybody's different here. Everyone's unique in their chakras. So just tune in to what energy you're feeling from this space right now. Does it feel tense, maybe overwhelmed? Maybe it feels a little bit subtle or kind of weaker energetically right now. It could be a lot of different things. So just try to get really specific about what you're feeling and experiencing in this area. We could even ask spirits to tell us, what does my third eye need right now? And just see what comes up. It may not make sense, and that's totally okay. Just allow whatever to come up, just have it come up naturally. And then take your hand and just hover it over your third eye, about an inch above it. And tune into the energy that you can feel from that center in your hand. See if you notice anything, hot or cold. There may be a bit of a pulling sensation. And start to wave your hand in a circular motion, whichever direction feels correct to you intuitively. And what this is going to do is this is either going to activate the center, or if you're going in another direction, it may be slowing it down a little bit if it's overactive. So just trusting that intuitive direction and allow that energy center to just be calibrated here. Do that a little bit longer. And then stop. Staying in that area. And just pay attention to the shift in energy here. And lastly, just envision a ball of bright white light coming down from the sky into the palm of your hand, and then placing that inside your third eye with your hand. Really purifying that center. You can put your hand down. And then now that this area is balanced and open, we can just take a moment here to ask Spirit, what is it that I really need to know right now? And just see what comes up. And asking, where am I holding back on trusting my intuition? What is it that you want me to work on to improve my intuition? Again, not overthinking what we're getting, just allowing it to flow. And then take one more deep breath here, allowing that breath to go into your third eye. Thanking spirits for working with us, providing that guidance. And then bringing ourselves back to our body. You can move in any way that feels comfortable. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Ah. And this is why I love you. I'm so glad you did that, because I feel like that's one of your biggest talents, is being able to tune into what people need through meditation. I think anyway, because meditation is something I find that is so hard for people to just get focused. We're all intuitive, but finding that ability to focus can be a big challenge for a lot of people. So for you, being able to be so intuitive and tune into what people need for a meditation. And then I feel like it's so easy to listen to you because you're an easy person to trust. It's like, oh no, she really is like doing this for us. That's how I feel anyway. Like that you're it's not for anything else, but just for us to help us, like, so it's worth listening to, which I think is great. So anyway, I find it just like such an easy way for myself anyway to completely change my entire energy from like that 5 minutes or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Yeah, so Abby sent us a heart and Nancy said that was great. Brian says like. I think that means he likes us. And Abby earlier was saying also beliefs, right? When we were kind of still talking about trust and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And energy. So when you do the guided meditation, do you do it for yourself at the same time?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like it's always going to be a different experience for me kind of when I'm doing it. Because when I do it, I mean, I'm basically channeling, right? And also I'll kind of half experience it at the same time where I'll have visualizations and I'll have things going on kind of in the background, but it's not where like I can actually fully sink into it and do it, right? Like as if I'm experiencing the meditation.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I just wanted to share is, and I can share a link. I have a ton of meditation journeys and stuff on my Facebook and my YouTube. So I'll share that when we're done as well in the comments.
Awesome. And so this is where I kind of want to jump in and maybe clear and release anything that came up for anybody, because sometimes I find we do exercises and so much stuff comes up. And you were saying to like write it down. So if people did write it down, we can get rid of anything negative that came up. And then replace it with anything positive that came up too. So we're already grounded, which is great, but we're going to reground. So same thing if you're doing anything right now, whether it's holding your phone, maybe putting your phone down. And if you have a crystal, picking up a crystal. But would you like to let go of anything that is unwanted in your current space right now? That's on an energetic level, but also on a physical level. So if there are items in your space that don't really belong in your space, trust that you can remove the energy that it carries. And let's replace that with forgiving ourselves for having negative experiences or negative thoughts. And let's also trust that all the energy that Daisy and I gave in this space, that you can start receiving that whenever you feel like it. So if you're watching this on the replay, or you're like, no, not right now, and maybe a year from now you pick this up and you want to watch it, would you like to know that it's safe to start holding space for yourself? And then if so, just say yes. Good. So what I get, like the way I do theta healing is I'll get images like you do, or feelings, sensations, words, all that stuff. But one thing you talked about was depression. I feel like that's an important kind of piece that can come with being sensitive.
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying, what would have happened to you if you didn't, go to that medium type of thing, like take that action step? Because sometimes being so aware, there's a reason why we block that out too. Like you mentioned alcohol or whatever it is, because here you are sensitive. And then it's like, ooh, I don't want to be this sensitive. So what would your recommendation be for people that are focusing so much on the past? Because that's what I was picking up for people, is that they're spending a lot of time on the past stuff that's happened. So like what would your tool be, do you think, to like start getting rid of some of that like negative thinking, or dealing with some of the negative energy that even comes with being a medium?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a multi-step thing. I think there's so many different pieces to that. And I mean, I think first off, like I had mentioned before, number one, let's say you're on this journey and you're opening up and you're feeling really overwhelmed. Often, that's still saying that's an indicator there's more self-healing work that needs to be done. So that can be in a lot of different ways, but that's what I would say step one. Step one is that, right? Addressing some stuff that maybe hasn't been addressed yet. And that can be scary and hard, but it's really necessary, honestly. I mean, if you want to go to the next step and you want to continue this and you want to be able to manage it, we really need to better understand our energy. And that's another one. It's like the more that we understand our own emotions, our energy, what it specifically feels like, then you are better able and equipped to understand when you're picking up on other people's energy or people that have passed away. Because when you're not aware of that, it just feels overwhelming. You just feel everything, right? But it's a lot about having that ability to start to separate things and be like, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, but is that mine, right? And then being able to be like, okay, no, it's not. Thank you. I don't need this anymore, right? And being able to kind of release stuff instead of letting it just sit in our field and stay there.
Okay.
So
yeah, I like the word release. That's kind of what that's like to me, that's like the ticket home is like, if you don't know how to release energy or thoughts, because that's what you're doing in the meditation. And then the Theta healing is like, I'm releasing kind of some of the energy, and you're teaching, I'm doing that work, but they're becoming conscious of what that even means to them. But the meditation's awesome because it's also getting them into the space to be able to release.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is like meditation is a huge part of it too. And it doesn't have to be like this crazy drawn out meditation practice. For me, it's just 10 minutes a day. Just 10 minutes to, in the beginning of your day to be like, okay, where am I at energetically? Like what's going on? And then you're better able to just, as you go throughout your day and things come up, then you're like, okay, this isn't mine, right? Because there was no reason for me to feel this way. That's not how I felt earlier. So again, it's just the more we're able to quiet our mind, even just for a small period of time each day, the more we're going to be able to have better control over that stuff. And it's also realizing, I mean, that was a big one for me too. Like there's so much out there, unfortunately, like misinformation to me, where it says that, you need to protect yourself and it's going to, you're always going to be overwhelmed and attacked by like spirits and bombarded. And it can feel that way. But as we work on it, and it's really the realization that we are in full control of what comes into our energy. We can control that. No one can force anything on us, right? And once you realize that, it makes it a lot easier. Makes it a lot easier. So that's another big one that I just try to always teach people, because I think it's very easy to think otherwise and feel almost kind of trapped in that, right?
Yeah, I'm getting to like step into your power. Don't step away from your power. Step into your power. So like, I feel like confidence plays a big role in that when people have mistreated us or abused us, and, even at a young age, right? Like if you were, I don't know why this always comes up, but molestation and things like that. It's so easy for like a person at such a young age to have such wounds that and this came up in another podcast with Just No Stress about her kind of like trickle effect of like having some toxic energy in the home that led to a toxic intimate relationship that led to drug abuse, you know what I mean? And thank God she was able to turn it around with support. But that's kind of what I'm getting is like eventually, like she turned it around, and she took what used to be her weakness and turned it into a strength, and was able to take all of that pain and put it into something. And last week we had someone that was a veteran with like severe PTSD, and that's kind of like related to, she felt like she had pressure to like have purpose and like do something with all this. Like I have to do something because of all of my stuff. And I feel like that's something also to mention is like, you don't have, just because you're experiencing all of these things and you're learning all these tools doesn't mean you have to go and like teach people or become like preachy, or like it feels like it's like there are a lot of hidden secret mediums and that never want to be a medium. And I think like today I wanted to focus on, maybe you have this gift and you're scared to step into it, very similar to my story, which Daisy has kind of started to help me as I ease into into that. But so it's encouraging people, if you have those gifts, to, yeah, sure, pursue them, whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't mean you have to charge money, but it might just make you feel like you're fulfilling your, like, I guess, your potential without feeling like you have to, that has to be your purpose. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. Well, and I think that's something that I also try to tell a lot of people that come to me, is that just because you're a medium does not at all mean that you have to be a professional medium. Like that doesn't, you don't have to do that. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, even if you have the ability, right? That's something that you have to decide for yourself. And the thing that I also, and I mean, this kind of goes off of what I was talking about too, is that everybody's unique, and it should be that way, you know, but I think people don't realize sometimes that they can use their abilities in so many other ways that benefit the public, that benefit the world, that benefit you, and you're still using them. But like even just being a school teacher or in any other career,
yeah,
channeling that energy, using your intuition can be an amazing tool and can completely satisfy that purpose. It does not have to be just that one way at all. At all. And it shouldn't be, because then you're going to resent it. You know, it's like, it doesn't have to be like that.
And it's not putting people on like above you either too, because I find people can get so intimidated sometimes by healers too. It's like, oh, like we don't worship healers. We all have abilities to tap in and to be kinder to ourselves and be kinder to other people. And these are just like, to me, like really great ways to start doing that. So if it's going to you for mediumship, or it's coming to me for like energy clearings, like they go to you and find out all this stuff that they have going on. And then they can come to me and we can work on it, and then go to their therapist, and then, you know, talk to them about maybe tools based on where they're at, you know. So I don't know why that felt like important to share, to not put people above other people just because they have some type of title. And I think, like you said, there are some people out there who do think that their shit doesn't stink because they have these labels. And I feel like just, for people to just trust that if they feel guided towards you or I, to maybe follow through with that, if it's just booking like a little consult with you, or just sending you a message, if you give people permission to do that. That might, I know you're wonderful about that. You're like, to me, you're one of those people where I'm like, she won't get mad if I message her, because like you're just genuinely kind. So I want to throw that out for people. Like, you're not bothering Daisy by asking questions. You also have a group, a free group, which is awesome. So you can put that link in there. And Abby said, imagination is the key to innovation. Truth bomb. That was some things we were dropping there. Tesla used his imagination, intuition, and divine assistance to build his inventions.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what meditation is for me, because you're also an artist. And for me, I'm not actually shutting anything off. I'm actually turning it all on. Like, as we're talking about that stepping into the power. So you can get business ideas, you can get like out of body experiences. Like, I feel like when you go into meditation, you definitely get what you need. And Stacy said, thank you. She loved the meditation.
Absolutely.
And Nancy, when we were talking about the past, said, that would be me. My past haunts me. So she might be a good person for you to also connect with, for where she's never had a mediumship reading, like, and actually I know that for sure. So I'll connect you two together. And the last thing I wanted to just address in our few minutes that we have, was I was picking up a lot on items, like belongings. So I've been watching on Netflix, is it Life After Death or something like that?
Yeah. So I know what you're talking about.
And he always has like items. So, and I was picking that up with people also having like items that belong to other people or that have some energy around them in their space. So what are your thoughts on items? Like, is it healthy to have items that from people that have like, that they've lost or?
Sure. Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. I think it's actually a nice thing to have, for most people, right? And so I think you're referring to like Tyler Henry probably, or like, and how he holds belongings of people that have passed. So like I do that too. I mean, a lot of mediums will do that. It's not necessary to have a, you know, connection, but it can help. It can help, especially if you want to like connect with a specific person. But I often will even recommend using items like that for the client to connect to their loved one themselves. Because that's another thing that I really try to teach people. You know, mediums can do certain things that maybe we can't do for ourselves, and they can be kind of this gateway into opening up to that world and understanding it, believing it, connecting to it. But ultimately, my goal for any client is that they never have to see me again, really. I mean, maybe they want to come back to me for different reasons, right? But ultimately knowing that they can learn to have their own relationship with their loved one that has passed, that they can develop and build on. And it's going to be deeper than any medium could ever have, because they're yours, right? So holding an item like that in a meditation to just connect with their energy, to tune into that, I think is a great thing. And I actually do have a free meditation to guide people to connect to their own loved ones as well on my, that's in my group.
Okay.
So I can, so if anyone also, I can always send a link in Messenger.
Okay. Yeah, because I've had to find a healthy balance with that too. Because when my friend passed away, she died with this rock that I gave her from South Africa. And the lady that gave it to me said, well, I bought it from, she said, she's going to die with this. And I'm like, Jesus, you know, like that could be a lot, because I didn't know she was even close to near death yet. So when I came back from my trip, like shortly after, she was pretty much on her deathbed. So we had to say goodbye. So I brought the rock to her husband. Husband brought it to her. I go to say goodbye, and she took the rock and put it on her stomach, where she had like a hole in her stomach. And her husband's like, holy shit. So I, of course, ended up with the rock. And it was really important, but I've had to really detach from it too. So yeah, that's kind of what I was getting, is that there's a lot, there can be unhealthy ways that we can attach ourselves to items as well. So I find like trusting that, like when you are attached to things that people have had that after they've passed away, like, yes, it's great to have like maybe a little candle in that rock, you know, when you feel like connecting, but also like maybe like, yeah, not just not attaching yourself too much to what is like, who is no longer there either. Like maybe there are different ways that we could create healthy symbolism for them also in our heart space too, that's not like material either.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that all ties into grief. That to me, that's a big part of that, is just grief and the process of grief, you know. I think for a long time, you know, certain items may be like overwhelming and triggering for us and upsetting, you know, to even have around. And I think there's a balance with that. Yeah. I think there's a balance with that, and everybody's going to go through it differently too. It's kind of, I think, this process of understanding what feels good in your space and what might be too much, right?
That's really, that's really helpful, because what I'm getting is like the heart, that, you know, that everything is in our heart too. Oh yeah. So when we attach ourselves to things outside of ourselves, like reminding ourselves in those meditations, like can be the closest place to connecting with loved ones than any other place we could go, possibly like a graveyard or something like that. It might actually be that some days you might just want to do that exact same meditation and be like, this is like going to visit them at the graveyard, like that this might be an even deeper connection. Because I find some people think that they need to go to actual places as well. And do you feel that way, that like it's all in your heart too?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, you don't need anything to be connected to them.
Okay.
Nothing.
That feels like really good. I feel like people, not just me, but other people needed to hear that too. Nothing. That it's like, that they're actually in your heart space. And so the more you connect to your heart space and clear the energy in your heart that's still hurting over time, the more love you'll actually feel from those people, and the more intuitive messages you'll probably get to receive from them by doing that work.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think a big part of like thinking that certain locations, or items, all of that, again, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like, some people just have that ritual and it makes them feel good and it makes them feel connected. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's also, and what you touched on too, it's just understanding like the grief process. And often when we're so much in grief, like, we're not going to be able to really connect to them. They're there, but we're not going to be really feeling their energy because we're so in our human experience, right? Yeah. So that's also a process, and understanding that takes time. But over time, as those emotions kind of settle more, then we're able to be more open and be more connected to them as well.
That is so helpful. I feel like that's going to help a lot of people that are potentially in a really deep grieving process right now, that might have lost somebody. Could even be yesterday. We have a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. So if you're very, very sensitive, you might be connecting to some things around war. Because if you believe we're all connected, how could you not really feel the effects of loss right now too? So I feel like that'll be helpful for people, even if it's not a family member or friend, that it's just things that are happening to other people that are our world family, I guess, if that makes sense. So that might be helpful for people to start working on too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure. You look beautiful as always. And sending you lots of love for your wedding too.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.